Hi guys, this is Elisa with Fusion DIY. Welcome back to my channel where I take outdated decor and I marry it with new techniques and new products and I give it a Fusion DIY makeover. Today I have 3 projects for you, so let's get right to it. Project 1 is this bench that I picked up at the Habitat Restore. The bench itself is in really good condition, but the fabric on the seat was worn and it was faded, so I decided to replace the fabric. Looking at the bench though, the bench was very, very sturdy. There was nothing that needed to be repaired, nothing that needed to be tightened. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the bench pull the bench away from the cushion, and I'm going to reupholster the cushion. You can't really tell from this video, but there's a lot of pilling on that fabric and it is worn in some spots. So I am simply replacing it with fabric that I picked up where I have my booth. And I absolutely love this fabric. I used it on a previous project and that project sold immediately. Isn't that pretty? Okay, when it comes to corners, it's just something that just takes practice. So what I did was I took the corner and I folded it in, and then the side pieces, you can see I'm folding it in, and then the side pieces I'm just kind of overlapping. Now, I will tell you, in hindsight, when I did this and I put the seat back on, it was very bulky right there. So I had to come back and I had to cut more of the fabric away underneath so that it wasn't quite so bulky. So here is the finished cushion, and I think it turned out beautiful. I really do love the fabric, and I'm not concerned over the fact that the fabric is beige and the bench itself is white. Now here I'm taking some awesome cleaner, and if you guys haven't tried this, it is indeed awesome. You can get it from the dollar store, and it is in its concentrated form, so you really should dilute it a little bit, but I'm using it straight up here, and it is just taking away grime like you would not believe. So now I'm putting the bench back onto the seat, or attaching the two, and here is the finished project. I really think it turned out great. What do you think? Please leave a comment below and let me know. For my second project, I picked up this galvanized can at the Goodwill. I believe I paid $1.99 for it, and I dry brushed it. Unfortunately, I didn't have any video of that. But I also found 2 milk bottles that fit in there perfectly. This was such an easy flip. All I did was I put the milk bottles in, and then using some tulips that I picked up from Amazon, I put the tulips in and I called it done. I liked the peach initially, but then after I looked at it for a while, I didn't like it. So here is the finished project. Project 3 is a very special project to me. I picked up this quilt at a rummage sale about 10 years ago, and I found it rolled up and stuffed in a brown paper bag and shoved under the table in the linen section of the rummage sale. So I rescued it and I brought it home, and it sat in my sewing area for the last 10 years. And back in September or October, I asked my friend Teresa to please quilt it for me. There you can see I'm cutting some stray fabrics. And so not only does Teresa quilt using a long arm quilt, or in this case, she actually used her sewing machine to quilt it, she also has experience in dating fabrics. And so I want to tell you a little bit about the fabrics in this quilt. It is a log cabin pattern, and it was initially started by the woman who hand-pieced the majority of the quilt squares. And then someone else came along and finished the quilt squares using a sewing machine, is what Teresa told me. Here I'm just trimming some of the stray threads. Now I'm going to turn this. So after I get finished trimming this side, I'm going to turn it around, and I want to show you some of the fabrics in these blocks. This pink and white fabric that you see is actually a grain sack, is what she told me, Teresa. And she dates this quilt between 1880 and 1920. What a treasure. I'm also trimming some more straight threads there. And here's some more of that fabric, that feed sack fabric. Teresa told me that what she believes happened is the woman that started to work on this quilt never finished it, and then someone, perhaps a daughter or a granddaughter, picked it up and finished it for her, but then she might have passed away and she never finished it either. This fabric I'm pointing to is the oldest fabric in the quilt. It is called a Garibaldi print. And she also pointed out that in this feed sack, you can see there's a line right there. That means that it was pieced together to make the block complete. So they used everything that they had back in the day. These are probably old shirts, old dresses. I see possibly pieces of nightgown in there. It's just a real treasure. So now I'm going to be working on the binding of the quilt, and I've cut my pieces to 3 inches wide. And in order to sew the strips of cloth together, I'm going to turn them like a cross, and then I'm going to sew diagonally from 11 o'clock down to 5 o'clock. And then I am going to simply trim off the excess fabric where I made the seam. And then when you put this on your quilt, you will barely be able to notice that there is any kind of a joining. So now over to the ironing board, where I'm going to iron the piece, and I'm going to fold in the edges and make it even on the top and the bottom. And this is how I'm going to know where the center of my binding is. And you can see I'm simply attaching the binding to the quilt with some quilting clips. And if you are a sewer or a quilter, these things, you know, are just a godsend. There are plenty of videos out on the internet about sewing and adding quilt binding to your quilt, so I'm not going to go into it here, but suffice it to say that I was just really trying to do service to this gorgeous piece of history. Teresa did tell me that some of the fabrics were starting to disintegrate, and this is one of them. There was a piece there that just, it frayed just from age. So I don't know what that could have been. Could have been a dress fabric, but it's all cotton, so, you know, it's not going to last forever. Again, here's more of that Garibaldi print. And the rust stain that you see there is a rust stain. It's not a stain in the fabric. It's just from age and oxidation of the fabrics being washed. And so I finished putting the binding on, and very satisfied with how it turned out. And here it is on my bed, just so you can see what it looks like. It's a beautiful piece of work and a piece of history. So I thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you will be notified every time I release another video. Once again, thanks for joining me here at Fusion DIY. I hope that you have a wonderful week, and may God richly bless you and your family.